Hello, everyone, and welcome back to JaianMusic Notes. Extremely excited about this solo episode coming right off the heels of my dual episode on Princess Mononoke soundtrack with Gab. We went straight through that and we really dissected the soundtrack of Princess Mononoke. But whilst doing that, whilst researching live on the podcast, I came across a little video here that caught my attention. We explored, obviously, in that episode, Joe Hisaishi's masterwork, the philosophy embedded in every note. But today, I want to pull back the curtain even further. This interview titled Joe Hisaishi, I wrote the Totoro theme in 20 minutes, absolutely blew my mind. But before I get into any of that, I just want to say a big thank you to the sponsor of JaianMusic Notes, Laser Audio Technologies. They make creative effects plugins such as Fram and Glow. And if you use code JaianMusic, you get 30% off at checkout. Every dollar from that code goes straight back into the podcast, such as GoPro Keo, who does all of the artwork. Go give him a follow. Thank you so much to all of you. So this was my original reaction when I found this. I'm going to play a little clip here and then we're going to get into it. A video posted by Classic FM. Joe Hisaishi, I wrote the Totoro theme in 20 minutes.
What? Ain't no way. Ain't no way.
So I then go, and this is an interview done by Jonathan Ross. He's a UK talk show host, from what I can recall. Very, very accredited interviewer in the UK.
Okay.
And if you listen to the interview, I'm not gonna play a piece of it here because obviously it's not my copy.
Yeah,
here.
absolutely.
But if you go to 837 in this YouTube video, I will link it to you momentarily.
I'm gonna have to go through that whole thing.
Yeah, my dear friend, I will link that to you right now.
Thank you very much.
And he basically says at 837, and I'm going to play this to make sure. He said he wrote it in 20 minutes. The melody, Totoro, Totoro. He wrote that in 20 minutes.
That's nuts.
That's crazy. This whole interview deserves its own episode of the podcast almost. I don't want to deep dive it too much, but that's just the genius of Hisaishi.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back. So this interview with Joe completely changed how I hear his music. I have not listened to Studio Ghibli soundtracks the same since then. There's this analysis that comes to me now. The video is short. It's just right around 11 minutes long. And he revealed more about his creative process than most composers share in their entire careers. Obviously, talking about writing the Totoro theme in 20 minutes, explaining a conversation about what makes Joe Hisaishi one of the most important anime music composers of our time, and why understanding this philosophy will change the way you listen to everything he's written. So let's get into it. Big leading thing here for me is the revelation. Jonathan Ross asks Joe Hisaishi about the Totoro theme, one of the most recognizable pieces of music in anime history. Millions of people know this melody. It's been covered, remixed, played in concert halls worldwide. And Joe, just casually humming the melody, then says, yeah, I wrote this in 20 minutes. 20 minutes. The question that this raises for me is, how does someone compose a piece that becomes eternal in anime in the time it takes most people to respond to an email? It blows my mind. Why this matters to me, it isn't about the speed of it, it's about the clarity of the vision. When Joe Hisaishi sat down to write this theme, he wasn't thinking about legacy, he wasn't overthinking. He was listening to what the film needed and to what the character of Totoro represented, to what would make children smile and adults cry. And the Totoro theme is just universally accessible. It's childlike. The melody is extremely singable. No complex intervals, no showing off. It's joyful. It's warm and well grounded. It naturally loops together. You can hear it once and it stays with you. Now compare this concept that I just explained to you to his symphonic work. Joe Hisaishi also composes like multi-movement symphonies. His symphony uses massive orchestration, complex harmonic structures, and lots of horns. That takes so many years to develop in my head as someone who studied film music. But for Totoro, the pen to paper notes, the hits on the piano, 20 minutes. And personally, what this tells me about Joe is that he doesn't confuse complexity with value. He knows when to write for an hour and when to write for 20 minutes. He knows when a theme needs 4 movements and when a theme needs 4 bars. That's like complete mastery. This moment, this 20-minute burst of inspiration is going to be our anchor because everything else we explore today connects back to that question. How does simplicity become so profound? We did like, in that conversation, there was also a lot of talk about the Japanese philosophy of space, the concept that defines his sound. Jonathan Ross does something similar in this interview. He brings up 2 Japanese aesthetic concept like ma and wabi-sabi. And when he does, you can hear Hisaishi light up because these aren't just abstract ideas. They're how he thinks about music. Ma is it's negative space, it's time or intervals, not as an absence, but as the presence of negative space. And that is the pause, the breath, the silence. We talked about this also in the Princess Mononoke soundtrack. We talked about the absence and the space that forms and how important that is. And then we also talk about wabi-sabi. And this is the appreciation of beauty that is incomplete and imperfect. That's where beauty you find beauty in imperfection. A melody that doesn't resolve in the most cleanly way. I think this is just opinion here, but when I think about the Totoro theme again, it's not perfect. It's not polished. And in the way a Hollywood theme might be, there's a certain like roughness to it, childlike quality that just feels handmade. That's the wabi-sabi concept that's referred in this interview that like plays with the Totoro theme. And then there was this whole section about why making film music is easy in comparison to composing for an orchestra. So I am in no way comparing my own work here to Joe Hisaishi. He is in a universe of his own, but I have had my chance dabbling in film music and composing for an orchestra in my studies in a controlled environment. And he said that composing with film is just easy, which is a surprising confession to me, but one that also makes sense because film composing is easy because the director provides like a certain guideline. This is a man who's scored over 100 films, who's created some of the most emotionally devastating music in anime ever. But this makes sense to me because when you compose a film, you have a director's vision, you have the visuals to respond to, character arcs to support, and emotional beats already mapped out. You're not starting from nothing. You're responding to something that already exists. But when you compose a symphony, that's pure creation. No director, no visuals, no characters, just you and the orchestra and the blank page. So that to me makes complete sense. And when you look at Hayao Miyazaki, it was really funny because in the interview they talked about a lot about how Miyazaki's been in and out of retirement so many times. So at this point, I think we can all agree that like retirement, it's not going to be right now. It might be later. And Joe, like it's for him. I wonder how that plays for him because like one of the main directors you work with is he's making a film, he's in retirement, you're thinking it's over, he comes back. That's a specific type of rhythm. But to go back, the music there in Studio Ghibli is more emotional feeling to me. It's orchestral, expansive, layered, allows Joe to write big and sweeping themes, but it's minimalist in philosophy, just like the Totoro theme. But emotionally, it's so big, it's enormous. And Hisaishi doesn't have one style. He has just that philosophy, the philosophy of minimalism, of not overthinking. And this is why Hisaishi can write the Totoro theme in 20 minutes, because when he sits down with Miyazaki's vision in front of him, he's not guessing. He knows what's needed and he just makes it. And then, like, obviously, we got to talk about the fact that Miyazaki has had such a long career. I think to Totoro in 1988. He started composing, I believe, in 1981. So it's been over 40 years at this point, if my math is mathing. And it's insane. Like, you compare My Neighbor Totoro, childlike, joyful, simple, Princess Mononoke, morally complex, tragic, like we talked about, Spirited Away, also talked about it with Gab. It's emotional, transformative. And then there's also like The Boy and the Heron, super dark and psychological and grief-stricken. Hisaishi has had to grow as a composer to match all of these different emotional facets that Miyazaki, as a filmmaker, throws at him. But stepping more into the minimalism of it all, there's also a part I want to highlight where Jonathan Ross talks about One Summer's Day, the power of, like, just the simplicity of that. He asked something along the lines of how he achieves such impact with such, like, without wanting to be insulting, basic notes. And Hisaishi just says it just works like that. You know what I mean? Like, here's what I think. After decades of working together, Joe Hisaishi doesn't think about Miyazaki's film intellectually. He feels them just how music's supposed to be. One Summer's Day is Chihiro's loneliness, her confusion, her longing for home, all in a simple piano melody. It works because it's honest. It's not clever. It's honest. And then, like, just the minimalism of it all. Like, Joe Hisaishi, I've heard him referred to as a minimalist composer before. And it's such a style that he loves. It's like Bach music, which we, like, briefly touched on that. He briefly touched upon on that interview. But to me, like, minimalism in music typically means, like, repetition of short motifs, gradual transformations over time, sparse textures, focus on rhythm and patterns. And that is, like, Philip Glass is a perfect example of this. But Hisaishi's minimalism is different. Traditional Japanese music it's different. It's one line music, no chords, no harmony. It's just a pure melodic line and the spaces around it, the negative space. That's why One Summer's Day works. It's essentially one line of music. The left hand provides gentle support and the right carries the entire emotional weight. Honestly, altogether, this was such a great find. And to find it whilst recording, to have my original reaction with Gab recorded at the same time, phenomenal. So if this is your first time listening to the podcast, this is JaianMusic Notes. I'm a anime music song cover YouTuber. I love anime music. I love making covers about anime music. I love discussing anime music. It's truly one of my biggest passions. And this podcast is all about exploring that universe. I've had the pleasure of interviewing people like Lucas Rossi, who has sang the Beyblade theme song, or Raj Ramaya, who sang in the Cowboy Bebop animated film, and obviously Mason Lieberman, who's done incredible work on Ruby. So I've been very blessed on this journey with this podcast so far. So just a big thank you to everyone for listening to this episode. Make sure to subscribe in your favorite podcatcher. A big thank you to Laser Audio Technologies for sponsoring the podcast. And a big shout out to GoPro Keel for doing all of its artwork. Thank you so much. Please subscribe. Follow JaianMusic Notes in your favorite podcatcher. More episodes like this coming soon. And of course, you can follow me on social media at JaianMusic.